Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to try the try a chapter video because I have yet to read a single book off of my physical TBR. All the books behind me for the most part are on it. And that was one of my goals this year, was to read more from my own shelves, and I'm doing a terrible job so far. I have read 20 books this year and not a single one of them came from these shelves. So today I thought we would do a try a chapter from each book and see what sticks out and what's going to be my next read. So let's get started. First up, we have You with a View by Jessica Joyce. This is following our main character, Noelle. She's unemployed, living with her parents, and she is grappling with the grief of the recent death of her grandmother. And as she's going through her grandmother's things, she finds these, I think, letters. Yeah, these letters and photos from a decades old relationship that her grandmother had. And she takes to TikTok to see if she can find who this man is that her grandmother was in love with, and if he's like still around, and if she can just find out some more about her life, because as we all know, that helps a lot through grief. So through her TikTok, she finds the grandson of the man her grandmother was in love with, only to find out that he was her high school nemesis. And she meets his grandfather. He's telling her about, the romance he had with her grandmother. And I guess they had planned to get married and like have this honeymoon road trip. And she decides she's going to take that same road trip just to kind of feel closer to her grandmother. And the man says, "Hey, I would love to go with you." And she agrees, but his grandson comes along too. And so now she's, stuck in a car with her nemesis and then this sweet old man who once loved her grandmother. And we just kind of go from there. I have started to really love road trip books, specifically in romance. There's something about that, not only forced proximity, but the tension that gets built there, especially because, I don't know about you, but I cannot stand to be in a tension-filled car for longer than like 3 minutes. I can't do it. So then I'm forced to deal with whatever the thing is that's causing tension, so long as the other person will, allow that to happen. And I just love watching that happen in books, so I'm excited to give this one a try. And then next we have a TikTok and Bookstagram fave, Butcher and Blackbird. I've had this on my TBR forever. I decided to buy a physical copy because I knew I would probably want to make some notes as I went along, and making notes on my Kindle just wouldn't be the same. This follows two serial killers who are kind of Dexter-esque, I'm led to believe, in that they basically just kill people who deserve it. And they've kind of made a game out of this and are going across the country trying to beat each other and fall in love along the way. I don't know if that's a good descriptor of it, but that's what I've gathered from all of the reviews and things that I've seen. And I've tried to go into this knowing as little as possible because I would just like to be surprised. And we have Sex, Lies, and Sensibility by Nikki Payne. This book just came out last week, I believe, and is a modern day retelling of Sense and Sensibility. It follows a woman whose name I believe is Nora. Yeah, so Nora's dad just passed away, and she finds out through that process that her and her sister were secret love children that his other family did not know about. And she's trying to revive a rustic inn. She's trying to revive this rustic inn. And during that process, she comes across Ennis Freeman, this man up here. He is a indigenous man who's an eco tour guide from the Abenaki tribe. And he doesn't think she's going to last at all. She's a rich city girl to him, and he's just like, there's no way she's going to make it. But little does he know that basically this is her last chance. It's her last chance to really make it. It's her last chance to kind of revive her life. And she's doing it in this small town where she hasn't seen another black person for miles. So she's a little nervous. So I'm excited to dive into this. It's got a lot of elements of books that I've really enjoyed. It sounds a little bit like that one Tessa Bailey book. I always forget the title of it, but it was very like Schitt's Creek coded. I will put the cover up there. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of, that book I just read by Madison Wright, Off the Beaten Path. This was great. This one had a cabin restoration in it. And I've just been in my small town romance era, and I can't wait to see what happens with these two. Next up, we have one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I absolutely adored Done and Dusted, so I can't wait to dive into this one. This follows Ada, who just failed an interior design program and is leaving a short-lived marriage, and her life is kind of just a mess right now, but she still has this passion for interior design and runs her own small business, and she wins the bid to work on this dilapidated property on Rebel Blue Ranch that Wes, writer here, would like to turn into, I believe, a B&B to have guests on the ranch and kind of bring in another stream of income for him and his family. When Ada comes into town the first night, she gets there super late. Everything's closed because Meadowlark is a tiny town, and she ends up at the local watering hole, the Devil's Boot, where she meets Wes, not realizing that he is the man who's going to be essentially in charge of her as she is working on this project. And I think they just kiss. I don't think anything more than that happens, but there's clearly a spark between them. And she leaves that night, shows up the next day for work, and then happens upon him. And I just assume chaos ensues from there because it's a Lila Sage novel. I can't wait to dive in. This one comes out March 5th. So I know so many of y'all are chomping at the bit for this. So I would love to read this one soon and be able to give you some first impressions as we eagerly await the release date. And lastly, I have another arc. This one is called Son of Blood and Ruin by, I believe, Marielle Lares. Yes. This is definitely fantasy. I think it's meant to be a romantasy book set in a Spanish-inspired world. It says, in 16th century New Spain, witchcraft is punishable by death, indigenous temples have been destroyed, and tales of mythical creatures that once roamed the land have become whispers in the night. Hidden behind a mask, Pantera uses her magic and legendary swordplay skills to fight the tyranny of Spanish rule. To all who know her, Leonora de las Casas... Ooh, I should have looked up a pronunciation guide for this one. I don't know what this last word is. Lazozine? Maybe? Never leaves the palace and is promised to the heir of the Spanish throne. The respectable, law-abiding Lady Leonora faints at the sight of blood and would rather be caught dead than meddle in court affairs. No one suspects that Leonora and Pantera are the same person. Leonora Charade is tragically good, and with magic running through her veins, she is nearly invincible. Nearly. Despite her mastery, she is destined to die young in battle, as predicted by a seer. When an ancient prophecy of destruction threatens to come true, Leonora, and therefore Pantera, is forced to decide. Surrender the mask or fight to the end. Knowing she is doomed to a short life, she is tempted to take the former option, but the legend Pantera is destined for more than an early grave, and once she discovers the truth of her origins, not even death will stop her. Doesn't that sound so fun? I love a hidden identity situation, especially when somebody's in like a royal class, but she clearly wants to bring down the dynasty around her. This book is already out in some places. I think it released in Europe first. I saw a lot of mixed reviews for it on Goodreads, and I think if you are a veteran of the genre, people seem to be kind of struggling with it, but I've seen that it's good for newbies, and I do not read a ton of high fantasy, so I'm hoping that this one hits for me, so I will be trying this today as well. So now, let the time lapse of me reading these commence. Okay, so now that I've read the first chapter of each book, we'll go through the impressions they left on me and give you a rating from 1 to 10 on my interest in continuing them in this moment. I know I want to read all of them this year, but some of them definitely intrigue me more than others. So first, You with a View. This one, I'm going to give a 4 out of 10 for first chapter intrigue. We get to meet Noelle and her family a little bit, get to hear a little bit more of the backstory of her grandmother's lost love. Not fully, but just like of how she even found out about it. I am always a little hesitant with books that use modern day tech as a forefront. Like the fact that she's like actively talking about TikTok doesn't bother me so much, but I don't know how well this book is going to age. Not that that matters in my time of reading this right now, but yeah, 4 out of 10. I did like that it was written in first person. I will say that. One of the things I struggle with traditionally published romance is oftentimes it's in third person, which is fine. But as a person who reads a lot of indie romance, first person tends to be what you get. And I appreciated that that was in there. All right, next is Butcher and Blackbird. That first chapter was great. I loved every second of it. This is a strong 8 out of 10. We meet, I don't know their names. I almost called her Lark, but Lark's in the next book. Sloan and Rowan. We meet them immediately. We meet Sloan when she's locked herself accidentally in a cage next to a dead body of a man that she, So, he's already teasing her a little bit. They are fawning over each other's nicknames. I say fawning, he's fawning. And she's like, I don't know, I feel like it sounds like a dumb superhero, but like whatever. I already love them. I've only read like 9 pages. Strong 8 out of 10. Alrighty, Nikki Payne, Sex, Lies, and Sensibility. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Also great beginning intrigue. We start out at the funeral. We are with the main character as she discovers that her mom is the other woman and she had no idea. And there's already some like interesting dynamics with her dad's actual wife and the drama. Close second behind Butcher and Blackbird. And then there's Swift and Saddle, which I'm giving a 9 out of 10. Who's surprised? No one's surprised. Maybe I'll give Butcher and Blackbird a 9 out of 10 as well because like they're kind of tied for me. The meet cute that just happened was perfect. They still don't know who each other are, but it was perfect and I loved it. Also, I love that we got to meet the dog. I love when you get to meet the dog in the beginning. Great time. And to my surprise, a 7 out of 10. And I say that because, again, I don't read a ton of fantasy. This one's very history heavy in its influence. So much so that it opens with a guide to different Mexican tribes, timelines and things that are going on, and even just in the beginning dialogues of the book, it was very heavy. But after I got to about page 4, this was a 9-page first chapter. After I got to about page 4, I was just kind of in it, and that was great. So, really strong showing. So now I have to decide between these 3 of what I read next, or maybe I'll read them all and that'll just be my next video. So I would love to see your thoughts in the comments. If you've read any of these, tell me your thoughts. If you're excited for some of them, because I know a couple of them aren't out yet, I would love to hear that as well. And with that being said, I will see you guys in another video soon.